welcome to Community Hotline. My name is Monica Weitzel, and we're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. Have a good show tonight. We're going to be learning some great information about nonprofits that are doing some amazing work. Tonight, we're going to start out talking with an organization that if you are from Portland or have lived here for very long, you'll know them as the Portland Women's Crisis Line. They've been around for a very long time, but now they have a new name, and it's Call to Safety. And with me representing Call to Safety is the Executive Director, Rebecca Nichols. Thanks for being here, Rebecca.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
So tell me about this. If you can, just give me a little bit of history about the Portland Women's Crisis Line,
Yeah.
and then tell me about this change of your name.
For sure. Well, the organization was founded back in 1973 by a group of women in their early 20s, and back then there were literally no services for survivors of sexual violence or domestic violence, and there was a similar organization being formed in Seattle.
Okay.
And so these young women decided they were going to do the same thing, and they created what was called then the Rape Relief Hotline.
Oh.
And within a couple of years, they were getting so many calls from survivors of domestic violence that they expanded their mission so they could serve survivors of both sexual and domestic violence.
Okay.
And they became the Portland Women's Crisis Line. And over that time, of course, our name would suggest we're best known for our crisis line. We actually answer about 23,000 calls every year from survivors.
Wow.
And that's primarily from the Portland metro area, but from other parts of the state and even around the country, we get calls.
Really?
And we also do sexual assault response and case management. So when a survivor goes to a hospital after an assault and gets a forensic exam, then one of our advocates would go and meet them there and provide support. And then we also have support groups and case management. And we help people on our crisis line get to safe places if they're in a dangerous one.
Okay, like a shelter or...
Exactly. Yeah, like if they need to go to the hospital, not for emergency care, but if they need to get to a safe place,
Okay.
then we can help them do that. And then we also provide a lot of volunteer opportunities. We have volunteers on our line right next to our paid staff, and we work with up to 60 volunteers at a time who are
Wow.
providing the same kind of direct services that our paid staff are, which is really helpful. It allows us to answer a lot more calls.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So then I can get kind of why maybe Portland Women's Crisis Line, because it's not just women who...
That was one of the motivations, yeah. And the way that I would really say it is that no part of our name was correct. And
It's not just Portland.
That's right, not just women and not just a crisis line. Oh. And we really wanted a name that would kind of meet us where we had grown, because we had kind of changed over the years and offered more comprehensive services to survivors, and we just needed to get away from a name that was so descriptive that it actually kind of limited what people thought of or what we did.
I'm sure a lot of people have no idea that you do so much more than
the crisis line.
The crisis
Absolutely,
line.
yeah.
I don't mean just the crisis line, because that's a huge thing.
It's true, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. A crisis line is such a core service within our service delivery system, but there are other agencies that are doing really, shelter and community education around economic empowerment, all these sorts of things. So we definitely wanted a name that kind of caught up to where we were.
Right.
And one of the other motivations, you said, first of all, that we don't just serve women, and we did over the years. I personally had male survivors or transgender survivors tell me really directly that they didn't feel comfortable calling us, and that just didn't sit well with us.
Because of the name? Because,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want that, because
no, we don't.
Everybody needs somebody to call in times of need. So
that's right. Yeah, we didn't want any survivor to feel like we weren't open to them open there to support them. Yeah.
How long have you been with the organization, Rebecca?
It's going to be 10 years in September.
So what's changed for you since you started up till now, besides the name change? What have you seen? Oh
my goodness, so many things. I would say over that time, we've put a lot of focus internally on how we work with our staff. It's really, really hard work, and we want to make sure folks feel comfortable, that they feel supported.
You do a lot of training?
We do a ton of training. Our volunteers and our paid staff go through about 60 hours of training before they actually answer the line.
Wow.
And so we just wanted to make sure they felt really comfortable doing their work. So in the time that I've been there, we've done things like increase wages, increase benefits, try to build in the support that will help people get off of their shift and be able to go home and let go of work.
It's got to be a really intense experience sometimes.
It is, yeah, and I'm so proud of my coworkers, because if I am walking past the crisis line room and hear the way they're talking to our callers, they're really present with every person who calls. That's one of our core promising practices is what we call it, that an advocate really offer that space and that individual support to each caller, and then they hang up and they do it all over again with the next call. And so I think that's kind of the primary focus that we've had in those 10 years is to make sure that they are able to do that well.
Well, if somebody calls and they're upset, they're scared, they're whatever, you want to be heard.
Absolutely. And I think what's really tough is that most of the time when survivors call us, the need or the resource they have there isn't really anything for them. So for example, shelter is one of the first things people think of when they think of domestic violence services. And the reality is most of the time shelters are full in our community. And so when people reach out to us, we need to talk with them about other ways they can be safe, other resources they maybe haven't considered, or family members or loved ones they can rely on, and really kind of help them be creative in their safety planning. Because what they're hoping for isn't available to them.
Wow.
That's a really common thing that we do on the line. So offering that emotional support, the safety planning, the validation of what they're experiencing is really a core service that we're providing.
And you're validating that, yes, you do need some help here. We're here to support you in that. And you probably have a lot of resources through other community groups and organizations.
Absolutely. We, in Multnomah County, we're considered the primary crisis line. So that means that we're working directly with our sister agencies to make sure we understand how to refer survivors to them. So we're kind of like a starting place for folks who want to talk to somebody on the phone. And for folks who want to go in person and talk to somebody, they're often going to the Gateway Center for Domestic Violence Services, another one of our sister agencies. So our job is really to understand all the options available to survivors locally and make sure people are going in the right direction when they're ready to ask for help.
Are you affected at all by the 211? Is it 211? Yeah, the 211
the information
service?
referral line. Yeah, we work really closely with them as well. We have an agreement with them so that their callers, when they need domestic or sexual violence advocacy, 211 will get them to us. And then likewise, if our callers need information referral to other services, then we get them to 211.
Yeah. Great, good deal. You provided a video for us that maybe you could kind of set it up for us. What will we be watching in this video?
Well, this is a survivor story, and the survivor who's sharing her story in this video is Sue-Ann. And one thing that's great about Sue-Ann is she's actually one of our board members. And so she really wanted to talk about what motivated her to be part of Call to Safety. And what I appreciate about this video also is that she really describes what emotional abuse what kind of impact that has on a survivor.
It's not just physical.
It's not just physical. And she talks a little bit about how difficult it is to really understand what to do when you're surviving emotional or verbal abuse. And I think survivors really identify with that when they hear it. And I think people need to understand more. It's not just physical violence. And sometimes that's actually the easier thing to get help about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that how much that affects you, that emotional abuse, and how much it can just totally ruin your life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well let's go ahead and take a look at that video now. Thanks.
My relationship was mostly emotional and verbal abuse. It really wears you down. That's the thing that they see the bruises and they can understand that, but people don't really see the things that someone's saying to you on a daily basis and how they just slowly eat away at you and how you feel about yourself, and the way you think changes and how you react to situations changes. It's so evil, just lurking there and not visible to anyone outside. And it makes it harder to leave because you think, if he hits me, I'll leave. But when he just makes you feel bad, it's hard to say, well, is this my fault? And you make up excuses and reasons to stay because you do love this person, but they're controlling you. When I was 20, I left my abuser. It was a pretty traumatic evening, which culminated with him threatening me with a loaded gun. I was able to call my family at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they were able to come and get me the next morning. It was a really difficult time, and I was really fortunate that I had people around me that loved me and supported me and believed me and helped me take care of all the things that I needed to do, like moving and getting a restraining order and filing a police report. And so since then, I've always wanted to be involved with an organization that would help be there for people. The reason I wanted to volunteer with Call to Safety is because I wanted to help and give back. I wanted to be there for someone else. If someone needed to call at 2 a.m. in the morning, I wanted to make sure they could access someone. I've been on the board for about 3 years now and have been acting as the treasurer for most of that time. I've met a lot of diverse people from across Portland, different backgrounds and experiences, and they all bring something really unique to the organization. We all have different viewpoints and can look at things in different ways, but collectively we always have Call to Safety as our focus, and we want to do what is best for the organization. I didn't realize, when I joined, what a positive impact it would have on my life. I didn't realize how much stronger it would make me and how it would change my viewpoint and help me grow. I always thought of domestic violence as being very sad, but by joining the board and having it be a survivor-led organization, I feel now like survivors, we are strong and we can change, and we can change how the world looks at domestic violence. And yes, this is bad and it shouldn't happen, but we should be able to talk about it, and we should be able to be happy, and we all have so much hope of what more there could be. And maybe one day this will end and we won't need to be here, and that would be so wonderful.
Very powerful.
Yeah,
Very powerful.
absolutely.
And that's something that I think really comes across in that video, is that she has taken back her power.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that I love what she says at the end, that survivors are strong and that they have hope, and there's a lot of opportunity for them when they have safety and when they have support. It's amazing what they can do.
Yeah. And the fact that there are other survivors coming together. I mean, we ran into each other recently at another organization's event where, it was the same kind of thing, people coming together who are survivors, and just the strength in numbers and knowing that you're not alone. And,
Absolutely.
and
It's really core.
Yeah.
It's really core, and I think we talk a little bit about what we call healing through activism. A lot of the people who do volunteer with us identify as survivors of domestic or sexual violence, and I really believe that that part of their healing can involve giving back and coming together, and that's a really powerful way to gain your strength again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great. So we don't have a whole lot of time yet, but I want to talk about Bike Back the Night.
That's right.
And then also volunteer needs.
Okay.
So what can you tell me about both of those things?
Okay. Well, Bike Back the Night is on June 15th, and it's part of Pedalpalooza. So it's a community ride, and it's around claiming streets, being safe, and ending domestic and sexual violence. And kind of aligned with our name change, the ride has a transformation theme. And so if people want to come and ride with us, they can dress up as butterflies or tadpoles
I
or
love
whatever. Whatever transforms.
And whatever transformation you want.
Exactly. And
love
it starts at Colonel Sumner's Park.
Okay.
And you can find out more at calltosafety.org.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you have a need for volunteers?
We always do. We always do. So like I said, we have volunteers who are helping us staff the crisis line. And that is a crucial part of what they contribute to our organization. We also have volunteers who help us with outreach and tabling, and especially with our name change. I think we could definitely use help making sure people know we're here and our name is just different, but everything else is the same.
Yeah.
And then we use volunteers to do other parts of our service delivery, like support group facilitation and things like that.
Okay.
And so again, at our website, you can learn more about it and even fill out an application online.
Great.
We're having a summer training that's already full, but there'll be a fall training that starts in September for advocates.
So plan ahead.
That's
if you want to
right.
get involved,
Fills
you've
up
got the summer to
fast.
do what you want to do, but then get in there to that training.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca, so much for sharing this with us.
Absolutely.
And Call to Safety, it kind of says it all, and the work you do is pretty amazing.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching this first segment of Community Hotline, and don't go away. We have a lot more coming up for you in just a moment.
documentary was more than I ever would have dreamed of doing.
This is a community media station.
It was phenomenal.
Ready, camera, one.
What is it about this place that makes so many different people come together?
Ready, camera, two.
Very professional, experienced people.
You can use these industry standard pieces of equipment.
Ready, camera, three. Take three.
You don't have to be rich to do this.
Open people's eyes to something they've never even thought of before.
Cool stuff happens. It becomes this community.
That's going to really change who's telling the stories and who's controlling the messaging.